everybody! So here's Linda again, and I'm here with a kind of weird video, but I think it's necessary. I always wanted to make an introduction video for the three theories that we're talking about. So here I am, and I'm trying to say something meaningful. So where do we start? What is MBTI, Socionics, and Enneagram? What are these three things? First of all, everything started with Carl Jung. And Carl Jung was a psychiatrist, and he was one of Sigmund Freud's students. And he wanted to figure out a way to help psychiatric patients without using medicines or electroshock or the instruments that were used at the time, because he considered that a very invasive kind of way to handle psychiatric issues. So he started analyzing people, and he figured that we basically move, we reason, we think, our cognitive processes are divided into 8 cognitive functions. So what he called 8 cognitive functions. These functions are basically values. So we give more importance to some values and less importance to other values. So, for example, the 8 functions would be introverted feeling, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, extroverted thinking, introverted intuition, introverted sensing, extroverted sensing, where the introverted versus extroverted split is not a matter of socializing or being sociable or anything. It's just a matter of how the function is used, what kind of value the function represents. So if it is innerly oriented or externally oriented. My favorite example is thinking. So the most basic meaning of the thinking functions, because extroverted thinking would be expansive thinking, so what everybody thinks, whereas, excuse me, whereas introverted thinking would be what I think, my personal way of thinking, and my opinions. So there are people out there that live their lives based on what others think and what the opinion of the majority is. Whereas there's other people that do not value this thing and rather focus on what their opinion is or the opinion of specific people in their lives. So that would be introverted thinkers versus extroverted thinkers. So this just to give an idea of what Jung was seeing. So Jung was basically looking at the dominant function of the individual. So what the individual uses the most, and what their base base values are. So basically, according to Jung, we think on the basis of a specific set of values that we give the utmost importance to, and from there we add other values in an order. What he figured was that 4 of the 8 functions are not considered and not valued, whereas 4 of the functions are instead valued and considered. So what he built was a system of 16 types with a combination of these functions. So these types would be INFP and ENFP, which are introverted feeling and extroverted intuition. So INFP would be FI dominant, introverted feeling dominant, ENFP would be extroverted intuition dominant, and they switched the second function, but we will talk about it. Anyway, so we have INFP, ENFP, INTP, and ENTP, which are introverted thinking and extroverted intuition. So again, we have TI for INTP, introverted thinking for INTP, and extroverted intuition for ENTP, accompanied by TI, introverted thinking again. Then we would have ISFP and ESFP, um, ISTP and ESTP, INFJ, ENFJ, ISFJ, ESFJ, and I think I'm forgetting someone. I think I will start from scratch because I go better if I go with quadrants in Socionics. I will tell you in a moment. Anyway, the types would be I was forgetting ICJ and ESTJ and INTJ and ENTJ. Yeah, so that's the whole family. So we have INFP, ENFP, ESTJ, ISTJ. Then we have ISFP, ESFP, INTJ and ENTJ, ESTP, INFJ, and ENFJ, ICP. And then the Alpha Quadra, which is ENTPs, INTPs, ISFJs, and ESFJs. So this is the whole family. 16 types. So what are MBTI and Socionics? MBTI is the first evolution of the theories created by Carl Jung. And it was this Miss Myers and Miss Briggs that were mother and daughter that started elaborating on what Jung had said himself and, created a new set of profiles to describe what they were seeing about these profiles by Carl Jung. Now, my personal idea of the work of these two women is that they were basing themselves on a personality test without enough control to actually obtain correct results. The problem that they were facing was, we talked a lot about it in our psychology lessons, it was the social desirability bias, because they were not taking into account that people answer to tests according to the social desirability bias and other biases that actually provide wrong answers. So they were not basing their profiling and their descriptions of profiles on correct data. So the samples that they had at hand were not telling of the actual profile. So what you find in MBTI descriptions tends to be a little bit off base. So it's roughly there, but slightly off base. And there isn't the real identification of the type. It's very foggy, and there isn't specific direction, and which instead we find in Socionics. Socionics is basically the same thing, but it was developed by a Russian equipe. So this is a Russian theory. It's very categoric. It's really highly structured, and it's based on Jung's book, Psychological Types. So they took the book by Carl Jung, Psychological Types, and they made a huge work to categorize exactly what those functions are and how they work and what they look like in types and so on. So they created this huge system that is called Socionics, which is also divided in 16 types and describes pretty much the same thing, with the difference that it also takes into account the influence of the unvalued functions on the psychological profile. Because without checking that, it is not easy to explain a lot of behaviors and a lot of cognitive approaches that we instead find in these types. So Socionics would be this structured and more categoric version of MBTI. I personally choose and pick Socionics over MBTI because I find it more accurate. And these studies were conducted very in depth. So plus there is another specific about Socionics, which was brought in, if I'm not wrong, by Galenko, And it's the subtyping system, which means that Gulenko and others defined that each profile actually comes in 2 flavors. So instead of being 16 profiles, it would be a total amount of 32 profiles that go in couples because, for example, I'm an INFJ, IIFE, and I use the same introverted intuition that an II and I uses, but I use a lot more extroverted feeling, which gives a different flavor and provides different set of answers also from a cognitive point of view. So basically, scientifically speaking, it should be that my feeling area, the areas of my brain that are um, in charge for feeling, for extroverted, for everything that extroverted feeling represents, have more dendrites than those of an II and I. That should be the difference. From what I understand from the situation around me and what is going on in my life, I also think that my introverted intuition is much stronger than average. And that's simply because I can see that there is a difference in the use of the dominant function. So we use our first function or our base function from 80% to 100% um, of its potential. So some people use it closer to 100%, and some people use it closer to 80% of its potential. And I would be one of those that use it close to 100% of its potential, plus very strong extroverted feeling accompanying. So I would be a very, very particular kind of energy. And moreover, this is just a parenthesis, just to feel like a special snowflake. INFJs are 1.6% of the world population, 1% of which roughly would be females. So, and I would be the most rare subtype of that grouping. So I would be like 0.5%. My specific type would be 0.5% of the world population. I know another girl that has my same profile, and she doesn't have her introverted intuition is not as strong as mine. So that makes me even more rare. So I guess that explains why I never met anyone that thinks like me in my life. But I meet a lot of people that think alike. Anyway, yeah, so this would be the part concerning MBTI and Socionics and what they are. So moving on, Enneagram. Enneagram instead is something completely different. So this is not a typing system. This is not a system to define your personality. This is more an instrument for personal growth. And we're talking about a wheel with 9 numbers, so from 1 to 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And these 9 numbers represent 9 core fears and 9 core desires. So basically, your Enneagram type defines what scares you and what instead drives you in the world. So an Enneagram 5, like me, for example, would be scared to be stupid and useless and would be driven by knowledge and understanding. So to me, understanding things is paramount. Anything logic drives my attention, pulls my attention, and I find logic things exponentially interesting. That's me being a TI, an Enneagram 5. I use TI and I'm an Enneagram 5. Other types instead that use TE may be more driven to knowledge and gathering facts by itself, which is something that I don't understand and gives me a lot of trouble, and that's why I randomly go ask for help. Anyway, yeah, that's what Enneagram is, and it can be used to develop personally. So to go through a path of personal growth. Richard Hudson actually created the division and the screen to go through for each Enneagram, and there is also a description detailed description of what each Enneagram looks like when it is in specific levels. And on this thing, I think I will open a parenthesis just for those of you who are watching this video for the shins but already know what we're talking about. I have no fucking clue why, but every freaking time I meet an ESTP, they're already in the healthy levels. And that's insane because I mean, why the hell is everybody else like on the bottom levels? Because literally, if you look at the majority of people, they're like level 7, if not even level 8. But most ESCPs I know, they're, well, every ESCP I ever met, they're like level 3 or level 2 or even already level 1. And that's insanity. Because I mean, how the fuck do you guys get so high so quickly? I mean, I know a 20 years old ESCP, and he bears the signs of of a level 2 Enneagram 8. Why? I mean, it took me 3 freaking years to get to level 2 or level of Enneagram 5. It's not fair. You guys should share. Anyway, yeah, I'm just joking. And that's truth anyway. Every ESCP I ever met, they were already in the healthy levels. It's like they do not feel the trouble coming from the external world, and they do not suffer from this decay that we all live and need to struggle through. They're God. Anyway, yeah, I think I will close this here, and I made it pretty clear. I don't think I think it's best that I don't go too much in depth about it, because if I do, I will end up doing a mess. So I'll close this here, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.